Well, welcome to another Memphis Monday 143. Today we're going to be fixing a small stool. I don't know exactly what's wrong with it, except the top of it fell off and got eaten by a werewolf. And beyond that, don't know what's wrong with it and don't have a plan. So let's knock off that chit-chat and let's go over there and see what the scope of the project is and see if we can come up with a plan. Well, this is our little stool. You can see it's just really tiny. It's almost decorative. One of the problems is that the top came off. It was all chewed up, but it came off, and I kind of investigated the reason why. I don't think these... I put these screws in. Instead of putting them in pocket holes, I drilled them straight in to the wood here, straight through. I need to put pocket screws in these side braces. I'm always rebuilding things that I don't have videos on. I didn't make a video when I made this. And so now I got to ask myself why in the heck I put these screws in this way. I must have thought that there wasn't enough room in here to fit those screws in, with pocket screws, but I don't know, who knows. I will go ahead and take this thing down to parade rest, and that way when I rebuild it, it'll be a similar design. I'm doing a little post-mortem here on the pieces parts, and looks like to me these boards are maybe a 32nd variance on these braces here. This one here is particularly long, maybe a 16th. I took the hanger bolts out of the legs and I checked them for size, and they all appear to be the correct length. And I have the corner blocks stacked up here, checked them for size, and I think you can see the pencil line right here. It looks like I was a little fat on that pencil line. On my legs, I rounded over the outer corner here, but I didn't round over the other three corners. I don't know why, but I'm going to round them over. Same thing with these side braces here. I didn't round them over at all. Now, these things are kind of technicolor now, but I'm going to try to sand them a little bit. The old stain that we sanded off actually gave the wood a pretty nice color. It's kind of brown. I didn't sand the inside much. I'm going to stain. I'm going to go ahead and stain these pieces we just finished. And I'm using a color called Ipswich Pine. Now I want my top to be 15 inches. I have this piece of remnant here that we used to make box joints on some of our other projects. So I'm going to cut it down to 13 inches square, and then I'm going to cut some trim, some pine trim from this clear pine here that's 1 inch thick. Okay, it's still too long this way. I need to cut it down. It's 13 inches this way, but I still need to take a couple of inches off this way. But before I do that, I want to make sure that it's square. Okay, that's 19 3/4. .19 3/4. Okay, so that's perfect. Now I can go ahead and cut this to width. I could use my table saw sled to trim this to width, but if I want a foolproof cut, I use my fence because I know it's accurate. Now I need 4 pieces of 1-inch trim, and I'm not going to get them out of this board, but I have another one here. We're gonna live on the edge, guys. We're gonna cut all the trim first. Since it's square, it's got a square top on it. All the trim should be the same length, right? Let's test that theory. Just for the fun of it, we'll let's dry fit our trim and see if it all fits. Since we're going through 1-inch stock here, I'm using these real long. These are 1 3/4 brads. These are 18 gauge. So I'll be using my small brad gun. I'll probably go ahead and set the pressure at max. Okay, just no big deal on this glue up. I'm not even going to spread the glue around and just make sure I don't put too much on. I think that's too much. Okay, I want to put these brads in level and in the center because I'll be rounding the edges over. And I also put a couple of screws in. You saw me taking them out just a while ago. So the thing will be steady. Now I'm putting some wood filler in the holes left by the brads. The stuff dries pretty fast. It'll actually dry while I'm routing over the edges. Well, while our glue's drying on our top, let's swing over and maybe do some assembly on our frame. Okay, we're going to ignore the through holes here. We're not going to use those. We're going to put pocket screws in this thing. This is a practice piece. I'm going to get my setup right. You can adjust the depth of the pocket screws by adjusting this little plate here. And I think I got it adjusted. I'm checking it now. Pocket screws come in lots of flavors, and I want to use these small ones here. I think they're 1 1/4 inch, but if I use this setup, it won't come out of the board long enough, so I'm going to deepen my cut. Okay, this was my first whack at it. That didn't go through enough, and so I deepened the two. I deepened these two, and now I think it's going to come through just about right. I don't have a table frame for this smaller table frame, so I'm just driving these screws into the same holes they came out of. Now, putting the legs on here. Table frame at least is better than we found it. Okay, this is the underside, and I got a big X drawn on here. And theoretically, I can take this. Bottom, get all the corners lined up on that X, and the thing should be perfectly centered. And it appears to be. So let's check out if we got those holes right, pocket holes. Okay, we got that frame on there. Let's see if this thing will stand up without rocking. All right, all the legs are right. Let's put some stain on it. I'm not going to finish the underside of the tabletop. Well, there's our nice little pine stool. Top came out really nice. Trim came out good. That's some really cheap wood in those legs, but that's the way it was. Well, that'll do it for Memphis Monday 143. We rebuilt this little stool. My wife uses it to put plants on and that kind of stuff. Kind of a little decorative bench. We made the top bigger and changed the color of it a little bit. But a nice little fun project. I think we got some takeaways. Well, that's all I got. No, one more thing. Make sure you're back here next week for another exciting Memphis Monday. Thanks for playing along.